Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Erica Robinson to the podium for Board of Education informational item 11E1, Finance Report and House Bill 581 overview. Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Bradley. Good evening. I am pleased to present informational item 11E1, Finance Report for the month ending November 30th, 2024, and House Bill 581 overview. Beginning with the financial report. Our total general fund revenue for fiscal year 2025 to date stands at $94.2 million, which represents 39.37% of our total budgeted revenues, is highlighted in green. In addition to the monthly QBE allotment, the district received $27.1 million in property tax revenue during the month of November. On the expenditure side, we have utilized 41.54% of our budget, as shown highlighted in blue, which equates to approximately $103 million. Pages 2 through 4 of the financial report provide a detailed breakdown of expenditures by functional category. Expenditures for the month of November were routine in nature, consisting primarily of regular operating costs and budgeted obligations. Overall, the general fund expenditures are consistent with prior year spending and are on track for the current fiscal year. Our beginning fund balance was $56 million, and after accounting for revenues received and expenditures incurred to date, our ending fund balance stands at approximately $47.2 million. The combined financial statements includes all fund types, the general fund, capital projects, and debt service, along with the special revenue funds. The total year-to-date revenue across all funds is $118.6 million. The capital projects and debt service funds have generated $8.4 million and $1.3 million in revenue, respectively, primarily from SPLOST proceeds and interest earnings. On the expenditure side, we have spent approximately $129 million year-to-date, which represents approximately 39% of the budget across all funds. The capital projects fund has seen expenditures of $8.1 million. Activity for the month of November includes payment for technology equipment and buses. There are no changes in the debt service fund expenditures from last month's report. Spending within our special revenue funds aligns appropriately with their designated budgets and grant provisions. At this time, Board, allow me to provide an overview of House Bill 581, which is a significant piece of legislation with important implications for Newton County schools. During this overview, I will cover the key components and objectives of House Bill 581, as well as the anticipated impact for Newton County schools. In the November 2024 general election, voters were presented with a proposed constitutional amendment aimed at providing a statewide homestead exemption. This exemption is designed to limit increases in the assessed value of homesteads across Georgia. The amendment also allows local governing bodies, including counties, municipalities, consolidated governments, and local school districts, the flexibility to opt out of the exemption by following specific procedures. The election results for the proposed constitutional amendment showed strong support both locally and statewide. In Newton County, 59.98% of voters cast a yes vote, while 40.02% voting no. House Bill 581 will take effect on January 1st, 2025, following the passage of the constitutional amendment in the November general election. House Bill 581 includes several key components, such as changes to ad valorem tax procedures, revisions to sales tax policies, and the introduction of a floating homestead exemption, which is expected to have the greatest impact on school districts. One of the key features of House Bill 581 is the floating homestead exemption, a provision designed to limit increases in the assessed value of homesteads. Here is how it works. A floating homestead exemption limits the annual increase in the taxable value of a primary residence by capping it at the rate of inflation as determined by the State Revenue Commissioner. For instance, if a home's value increases by 10%, but the inflation rate for the previous year is 2%, the taxable value of the home will only increase by 2%. The 2024 assessed value of your home will serve as the base value for the exemption starting in 2025. This exemption, established by House Bill 581, will apply in addition to existing non-floating homestead exemptions, such as the senior exemption and the disabled veteran exemption. I would like to provide a summary of the estimated revenue impact associated with the implementation of House Bill 581, which introduces a floating homestead exemption. This exemption is designed to limit the annual increase in taxable property value for qualifying homeowners. However, it also results in a notable reduction in anticipated revenue. Here are the estimated annual revenue losses. In 2026, the first year of implementation, we will anticipate a revenue loss of approximately $3.9 million. In 2027, the loss increases to an estimated $6.2 million. By 2028, the revenue reduction grows to approximately $8.8 million. Finally, in 2029, the annual loss is projected to reach approximately $11.6 million. When we look at the cumulative impact over this period, the total estimated revenue loss through fiscal year 2029 amounts to $30.6 million. These figures highlight the long-term financial implications of this legislation. With a potential loss of over $30 million and no new funding streams identified, the district will face significant budgetary challenges. One of the greatest concerns is our ability to implement and maintain a competitive pay structure. Without adequate funding, we risk losing talented educators and staff to neighboring districts or other opportunities, resulting in lower retention rates, which directly impacts the quality and stability of our educational programs. Additionally, reductions in staff and services will inevitably lead to fewer teachers and support staff, resulting in larger class sizes and reduced individualized support for students. The district could also face potential gaps in safety and security as a result of fewer safety personnel and resources. Furthermore, maintenance and upgrades to our facilities will be delayed due to lack of funding. As the district plans for the development of its strategic plan, limited funding will significantly impact our ability to execute key initiatives. These initiatives are essential for advancing student achievement, enhancing facilities, and improving the overall quality of education within our district. Lastly, the absence of additional funding streams will place substantial upward pressure on the millage rate. This creates a challenging environment as we strive to balance the needs of our students, staff, and community with the available financial resources. While House Bill 581 may place upward pressure on the millage rate, I want to take a moment to remind our community of the significant steps this board has taken to provide property tax relief. In fiscal year 2016, the Board of Education reduced the debt service millage rate to 0 mills, fulfilling a commitment made by the board to use SPLOST funds for the payment of principal and interest on the district's outstanding general obligation bonds. Additionally, over the past 5 years, the Board of Education has reduced the millage rate by more than 4 mills. The current millage rate of 15.750 is the lowest rate adopted by this board in over 25 years. Lastly, the Board of Education approved a resolution to increase the senior homestead exemption from $30,000 of assessed value to $50,000 of assessed value, offering greater property tax relief to seniors in our community. In closing, I would like to emphasize once again that House Bill 581 will have a substantial and lasting impact on our school system. While this legislation is intended to provide relief for homeowners, it creates significant challenges for our district's budget. A projected revenue loss of $30 million will be impossible to absorb without reducing or eliminating critical programs, services, and staff. The consequences of these reductions will directly affect the quality of education, the safety of our schools, and the resources available to support student achievement. Our ability to retain high-quality teachers, maintain manageable class sizes, and address facility needs will be significantly hindered. Moving forward, we will continue to monitor and evaluate the effects of House Bill 581 on Newton County schools and identify the most effective next steps. Madam Chair, this concludes all that I have prepared. I turn it back over to you, but will remain available for any questions or board discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Board members, do you have any questions or discussion from Ms. Robinson?
I don't.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll go first. I say go first. I'm assuming that there may be others to follow, maybe not. This is a difficult situation. I'm telling you, this is a difficult situation. Everyone knows we've had increasing property value assessments. It's been out of control, particularly in the metro Atlanta area, but now this is affecting rural Georgia as well. Property values continue to go up. This board's had a commitment to try and lower the millage rate to offset that, right? So when property values go up, we try to lower the millage rate so that people's property bills, the school tax isn't as high as it could be. So we've made an effort to do that and still try to run, thank you very much, a very lean and mean machine financially. And then our legislators, and we appreciate the efforts they do at the Gold Dome, but this House bill is very difficult for us because I don't know if you can tell, but it puts us in a quandary, certainly. Of $4 million the first year, 6.2 the next, 8.8, and it compounds, it seems like. I personally want homeowners to have a tax break. I think it's wonderful. We all want that, don't we? I mean, if you own a home, you want a tax break. But at what cost, right? Like this is the Save Our Homes Act. And I would say, what good is it to save our homes and lose our children, right? So the difficulty for me is the legislators bipartisan unanimously put this forward. So that sounds like there's a lot of support for it. I think there is. I think when the bill originated, it had really good intentions. I think with its passing, though, there's some unintended consequences that comes from that, and that's what we're learning tonight, and that's what I want the public at least to hear us wrestling with. And then this November, when the House Resolution 1022, I think whatever it was, at least it gave local boards of education, local county commissioners, and local city councils the opportunity to opt out of this bill, which that to me is now the tension, right? Because our legislators passed this unanimously, bipartisan. And the voters said, we want this tax break, but we understand the math's got to work. And so our citizens said, we will give you that opportunity, local boards, to make that decision. But that's a hard decision because we want those tax breaks. But how in the world do we recover $4 million the first year and compounding year over year? Ms. Robinson said it well. That's impossible to make up. If we just go with what the legislation is and we begin to lose those funds, what happens? What programs do we lose? Like what things do we cut? Some people would say we have a bloated budget anyway. Well, when 85 to 90% of it, not just Newton County, but across the state, 85 to 90% of that is salaries and personnel. So you're saying we're going to start cutting teachers and increase class sizes? Who wants that? None of us want that. And, maybe the plea I'm making is if you do the math for yourself, I worked on it on my own to figure out what my homestead difference would be. And for me, it worked out to about $30 a month. So I could save $30 a month on my tax bill and our school system lose $5 million. I can't, that's hard for me to live with for $30 a month. $30 that's good money. That's real money. I'm not saying it's not real money. For some people, that number will be a little higher. For some people, it will be a little less. But I have just been torn apart, and I know the board knows this, and if I pontificate too much here, you guys tell me to be quiet. But I have just been ripped apart because I desperately want to see our homeowners get a tax break. I'm just not sure this is the best way to do it, not when it affects our public school system. And you throw in this voucher bill that passed too on top of it, and I'm not pointing fingers at legislators. I'm just saying this puts our public school system. who we don't turn anybody away. When a kid shows up and gets registered in our schools, we teach that kid. They have special needs, we teach that kid. They don't speak English as their first language, we teach that kid. Private schools aren't going to have that opportunity. They get to decide your $6,500 voucher that you get, it may not be good at a private school because they can turn you away. They don't play by the same rules that we have to play by, or we get to play by, because we want educational excellence for all students. All right, try not to get worked up, but this is very frustrating and very difficult. But the voters did give us an opportunity to opt out, which is difficult for me to say out loud, that I think that might be the avenue that we should take. And you guys might not wrestle with it as much as I am, and that's fine. You guys might see it as clear as day. We can't lose that kind of money, and I get it. But I have a philosophical tension that I want to see taxpayers' burden go down, and I want to see, I want to see our homes saved. I just don't want to see us lose kids in the process. So my fiscally conservative and often, right of center leanings on this deal, I'm having a hard time thinking that we could agree to this legislation. And so, board, I will ask for, I don't know that y'all are wrestling with it, but I would ask for us to at least to consider this opt-out provision, and I would desperately ask our community to understand the ramifications of this. I'm not saying anyone was uneducated. You know how legislation's written. It's not always written clear enough for everybody to go, oh, that's the impact. It's written for the benefit. Oh, yeah, I get a tax break. Perfect. And we all want that. But man, we don't want to see our kids slip through the cracks, and because we can't fund them. We don't want to see safety measures go away that we've just went to this great lengths to put into place. And lastly, like you guys have probably heard, and I'll stop after this, there's really never a tax break. There's always a tax shift. And I think that's what possibly happens here. A few of our homeowners get a break, but local businesses are going to get stuck with this because they don't qualify for homestead exemption. Other property owners who don't have that as a homestead but have large tracts of land, their bill's going to go up, right? This will get shifted somewhere. And we've worked so hard to lower the millage rate. I just don't know how else we can do, but what else we could do to balance that budget, but to increase the millage rate, and then that affects everybody again. And I just don't think we're winning if we do that. I don't think we win if we have to raise the millage rate and everybody has to pay that, because a few of us homeowners do get to get $30 off our bill a month. So, man, it's a difficult thing. Thank you for sharing the information and helping enlighten us. And I just, if you want to have more conversation with it, I'm happy to do so. But I'm struggling, but I do feel like opt-out is the right thing for us to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. That was very well said. I think personally, and I just think for the people that I've talked to at other school boards, we're all in that situation, the same situation. What do you do? Because somebody's going to lose. And what we don't want to do is have those children lose and have our teachers lose. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just make it real quick. So I would just ask for constituents and community to, even though you brought up that it passed with bipartisan support, legislators have a job of putting legislation in place at the request of their constituents. And while we may understand the complexity of Ms. Robinson's report, because it is very complex, the average person who is sitting at these seats may not understand the complexity of it. So the easiest way that I can tell you guys to understand the decision going in there is, earlier I mentioned there are 180 districts in the state of Georgia. Look how many of those districts decide to opt out. And if you see the majority or at least half doing that, then it is not an isolated incident. And that should send the important message of the rationale and the reason why school systems are having to do it. That's evidence by itself. So you'll soon see school districts making those decisions. So don't say, oh, well, Newton County. I encourage you to look at how many other districts, and that's going to provide evidence of what Trey and Ms. Robinson is trying to articulate.
So I just want to take a moment to just commend the board for wrestling with this topic. You know, we've been having conversations about House Bill 581 since early fall. This is the first opportunity that we've had to have public discussion about this bill and the implications or the potential implications that it would have on our school district. I don't want the community to gloss over one critical aspect of this legislation, which Ms. Robinson mentioned, but I think is critically important, which is that this is a permanent financial structure. You know, the millage rate is something that the board has the power and authority to raise or to lower depending on the circumstances of the economy or the housing market. But when contemplating the potential for abiding by a financial structure that is permanent, I think that adds another layer of difficulty and complexity to this matter. And I just want the community to acknowledge that, to be aware of that as well. I also want just to take a moment to reiterate that this board has also been very courageous in their efforts to provide relief to our homeowners. There were three specific things that Ms. Robinson mentioned that have been done by this board that have been intended to provide relief. One, zeroing out the debt service millage rate. Two, the lowering of the millage rate from 16 to 15 3/4. And I would remind you again that 16 was the lowest millage rate that this board has had, that this school district has had in 30 years. And the third is a senior homestead exemption. Those are three things off the top of my head that we can point to that this board has taken action on to make sure that there is at least some measure of relief given to our homeowners. And so as the board continues to contemplate and decide and ultimately make a decision about which direction is most appropriate for our community and for our school district, I do think it's important for our community to be aware of some of the steps that they've taken in the past. And I yield my time, Madam Chair.